I'll try to keep it brief, inshallah. Subhanallah, the marriage topic is very interesting, right? I was having a conversation with a brother, and I was remembering that conversation today while we were sitting and talking. So this brother is Egyptian, and we were talking about the conflicts in Egypt and Syria, and he was wishing how one day, once things settle, he wants to go back to Egypt, and he wants to live in Egypt, and how this has always been his dream since he came here, and that I think a lot of us still think that we are immigrants. Like, we refer to our countries, and we say, how long you been here? So I've been here 40 years, been here 30 years, and we still have this back home attachment. So I was talking to this brother, and he was like, yeah, I want my kids, want to move back to Egypt, I want them to marry Egyptian girls, and I want this, and that, and we're talking, I said, SubhanAllah, is that what your kids want? And he smiled and says, no, that's not what they want. I said, what about your wife? Because his wife happens to be Mexican. So he says, no, she doesn't want to live in Egypt. And his kids, his oldest son, I think, is 16 years old or so, who was born here. So he's been here for decades. He married an American-Mexican sister. His kids are born and raised here, but he still has a fantasy of living. And not only that, he wants his sons and his daughters to marry Egyptian men and women, subhanAllah. Which is not realistic. I used to tell my mother when I was young, and she would always tell me, because I would always question her about this, and she would say, it's good to marry from our own people. I don't know what her own people meant to her, right? So I would say, I would question that. So my people are Muslims, right? So I'll marry a Muslim. She said, no, from your own country. So I say, if I have to marry somebody from my country, from my culture, then I have to marry an American. Right. And I think that's something parents have to remember, that your kids are born and raised here. So if you want them to marry a sister or a girl from your balad, right, as you were saying, from your country or back home, that's not good. Even though it is important. Imam Shafi'i even, and I don't know, maybe that statement is outdated, Imam Shafi'i was to a certain extent, and Dr. Amjad can correct me, was against people marrying from outside of their culture. Because it does have serious impact. I mean, of course, that's not a rule across the board, but it does make a difference. When you marry somebody from a different culture, many people, not all people can deal with that. So keeping that in mind, remember that your children that are raised here, they're not from the culture that you have been. So when you say you have to marry a girl from Palestine or from Egypt or from Pakistan, they're from a different world. Dr. Jamal Badawi, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him, I remember in a khutbah many years ago when I was young, he was saying that for the sake of Allah, it was almost like he was begging the people. And he was saying it to the father. Just for the sake of Allah, if a man comes and asks your daughter's hand in marriage, and he quoted the hadith, right? Prophet ﷺ said, if the practice of the deen satisfies you, marry them, or what will happen? They will be fitna. This is powerful. So he said, please, for the sake of Allah, let your daughters marry, provided that criteria is met. Don't get into culture. And the profession part, subhanAllah, I think for our young people also, it's important to understand why your parents want you to be engineers and doctors only. And even lawyers now, they're warming up to it. Even law was not necessarily, because most of the immigrants, they came here for what? Why did your parents come here?
For a better life.
Came here for a better life, because it wasn't working out back then. So they were struggling, and then they come here to get settled so they can have a good life for their children. So that mindset is hard to rid of. So they struggled all their lives for a comfortable life, and they want the same for the children, but then there is some void there, an understanding that comforts have changed. And now comforts can be acquired through many fields, not just engineering and medicine and whatnot. So that's something, so that has to do with understanding the culture and realizing. So if we both agree with one another, and wallahi, sometimes I had a young friend of mine, and I'll end with that. I apologize for the lengthy comment. This young brother used to be in our youth group, and now he's married, he has children, mashallah. And I remember him asking me, what should I do? He was still in high school. And my advice to him was what? Go into education, all right? SubhanAllah. And he really wanted to be a teacher. He wanted to be an educator. But guess what?
They don't make money.
And to be honest, there's no money in it, right?
Right.
And you can tell, come visit my house sometime. That's good. So his parents they were not comfortable with the idea of their son becoming a teacher. Of course, you can do more than just teaching with your education. So what he did is he went to university once he graduated, and he got a degree in management information systems. Guess what? The parents are happy, right? Parents are happy, alhamdulillah. So he didn't want to disrespect and disobey his parents, so he gave in to their wishes. Then you know what he did? He went and got a master's in education, did his teaching certificate, and became a teacher. So he gave them what they wanted, they're happy. Then he did what he wanted, he's happy. And then eventually he got into administration, he had a master's, he's working in the Los Angeles Unified District as one of the lead administrators, earning good money, which is what their parents said, I want my kids to be comfortable. So he got what he wanted without disobeying his parents. Even though what they wanted maybe was not practical and rational in the current environment, he still said, no, I'll give it to them out of respect, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do what? Give you the barakah. So there's, the big picture, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
So Dr. Amjad will save his comment till after we ask this question, and that will be inshallah the closer. And just before you leave, we'll make dua together as a group, inshallah. So hang on to the end, inshallah. So the last question is to the parents. To the parents, I don't know how many youth are left in the room, but for the parents, what are some of the practices or the behaviors of your children that you wish to see more of? Either they don't have it, or you wish to see more of them. Yes, sir.
I would like, I have very good relationship with my son. We love to watch sport together. We have a lot of fun together most of the time. But I would love the kids of this country to appreciate more the stuff they get and less abusing whatever they have. Like the brother mentioned here, even the freedom, we give them, they abuse it sometimes. And they don't appreciate as much whatever they get. They got everything in their hand and still they don't appreciate it. 5, 6 kind of electronics and all that stuff, and still they don't appreciate it.
Even if it's $150 shoes.
Whatever.
Ready for the next one. So the brother was saying that he would appreciate if the children, if our kids would appreciate everything that their parents are doing for them. I mean, they're living basically for you. I'm talking to the youth. So your parents would appreciate if you show more appreciation, whether in action or in words, and not abuse and take for granted that which your parents provide for you. Sheikh Faiz.
General observation. Most youth are very selfish in this country. They teach you to love yourself. And the whole world is involved around you. You the man. You the show. Everything for you. So when you ask, they do not respond because of that, mental.
Yeah, they call it the me, myself, and I culture. It's basically revolving around you. So Sheikh Faiz is saying that he would appreciate if the youth are less selfish and more considerate of others, parents and everyone else, and be less selfish, which is very Islamic.
And you have rights, what's your obligation?
Exactly. So justice, like Dr. Amjad was saying, justice between obligation and rights. Brother Hassan.
Assalamu alaikum. I have 4 boys, 10, 13, 16, 17.
MashaAllah.
The area of improvement, not for my kids, for me. I think our kids is what we make of them, or what we make them. We make our kids, behave the way they behave. So I want to share with you an area of improvement that I would like to have in me, so really can impact my children positively. I developed this habit with my kids that if I want to tell them something or give them instruction, if I talk to them normally, maybe they don't do it. So with time, I developed, in order for them to do what I tell them, I have to speak loud and scream and yell, you have to clean the house in 10 minutes. When they hear that voice, I am serious. But I said, guys, you have to clean the house in 10 minutes. It's not going to be clean tonight. So this bad habit I developed, and bad relationship of that I have to scream for me to get my point across. This is an improvement that I have to have. I need to go back and talk normal to them without having to yell and scream. And so I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to improve me in that area. And I think maybe a lot of us probably have the same bad habit. So if we can improve on this habit, learn how to talk to our kids kind and soft, no matter how much really they lack in delivering what they need to deliver.
So that's why he put this program together. So this is a third dimension that he took us into, which is self-reflecting as parents. He's self-reflecting on himself as a parent. What do I need to improve? Not what do I need my youth to improve or my kids to improve in themselves. So this is very, very powerful for you and your wife, for me and my wife, to sit down and reflect. How can we improve the way we deal with our kids? Right? So treat people as you like to be treated. Yes?
One quick example I just wanted to share. It's very common, I believe, many of us heard it many times, which is what we have learned and heard in our learning, which is a 7-7-7 rule, which is first 7 years you teach the kids, and then next 7 years, I guess, you put more emphasis for learning, and then you become friends. Now, if a 17, 18-year-old is not praying, and if asked, why is he not praying, and, this kid went to ask Sheikh, and Sheikh said, what were you doing when he was growing up, 10 years, or 7 years, 9 years old? Well, I was working, and brother, you have to work two shifts just to, get the living, and I didn't have time, or I was traveling, and, now, so if we don't put emphasis as parents early on,
So again, the brother is again self-reflecting on us as parents, how to deal with our kids according to their needs. And he mentioned the 7-7-7 rule, and I leave that to Dr. Amjad to emphasize, which is, to play with them for 7 years, to teach them for 7 years. So I'll leave that for you, inshallah, if you want to elaborate. Let's take one more comment and then conclude with Dr. Amjad, and then close with the dua, inshallah. Yes, sir.
We came from a cultural background which, when you challenge the elderly, when you challenge your father or grandfather, is very minimal and unlikely to win. What I noticed from the youth here in the US, and I taught in a Sunday school a few years back, is that it's sometimes very hard to get the wisdom through. I remember when I used to argue or have a debate with my parents or my mom 20 years ago. 9 out of 10, she was right. But when did I realize that she was right? 20 years later, I realized she was right. So she was trying to pass a wisdom. And I was a little bit reluctant to take it, but I realized that she was right 2 years later. So the problem with the youth that I see is that they don't appreciate the wisdom of their parents or their teachers. It's difficult to get through what you are trying to get to them, and keep challenging. Challenging and critical thinking is something good, but sometimes it's too much. It gets beyond the tolerance level of me as a parent, and it gets irritating. And this is why we need to see. What's your advice regarding this habit or this, something common in the youth of US?
So the brother was basically saying that the youth don't get the fact that their parents have experience in life, and that experience is worth something, right? So that one brother once had this, poster in their house: parents are always right. If you have, and then rule number 2, if you're in doubt that your parents are always right, go back to rule number 1. So the parents' the parents would appreciate that you would consider their wisdom in life, not necessarily that you have to live exactly like they live, but learn from their mistakes, take their wisdom, because they only love the best for you. So the parents have experience in life, and they're sharing with you because they love you. So I will stop here, inshallah, and give the mic to Dr. Amjad to close the session, and then we'll finish with the dua, inshallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah, mashallah. You know, very intensive points, very important. Sometimes I feel that I need a full lecture just to start with the last 2-3 points. Full lecture. May Allah help me, inshallah, to make it brief. Just no more, inshallah, than 45 minutes. I'm joking. Inshallah, 5 minutes, but subhanallah, the point of wisdom, passing the wisdom, the 7-7 rule. Let me say something. In about 1 month ago, I had like a teen talk. I gathered the highest number of teens in Richardson, in Mass Dallas that I can have. And I asked them at the same meeting that I told you just a few minutes ago. One of the things that they told me, and they were complaining, that they said, really we are suffering from the fact that our parents, especially fathers, they don't sit with us. Look now, one of them, he was so clever. He's from Syrian origins, but he was born here. He said it, wallahi, it was drilled in my psyche. I mean, his words. Look what he said. He said, Doctor, I want to ask you something. Who is the best friend for any one of us? Then he answered by himself. He said, the one whom we sit with more. Got my point?
Yes.
Now, how can my daughter, my son, will believe that I have a wisdom if he does not know me, if I am just his ATM? For him, I'm just the cash machine. The only relation between me and him is that I pay money. Did you eat? Yes. Did you come? Dad, I want to go. Okay. No. Yes. Robots. Really? I mean, it's developed in his way. Now, really, sometimes they say, you know, sometimes we watch TV together for 3 hours. This is not sitting with your kids. Now, the master is the TV, not you. I'm talking about the quality time between you and them. And I have to go to the amazing, beautiful point that has been raised by Brother Hassan, which is self-reflection and criticism. Something about myself. My daughter, Bayan, she's the eldest now. Yesterday, it was her birthday, she finished 16. Subhanallah. About 8 years ago, she was 8, I think, once. I'm a very busy person in Jordan. Alhamdulillah, Allah may give barakah in our time. So I have TV program, radio program, public talks, I travel and I teach and all the time. Sometimes I'm stopped in the street by 10, 15 persons for 4 hours when moving from a place to a place. So sometimes for 4 to 6 months, I do not take my kids in a picnic or a... Alhamdulillah that I have an amazing, wonderful wife, Jazakallahu khairan. She's very understandable, she's supporting me amazingly. She's my counselor and she's my supporter and she's backing me in everything. She drives and so she takes them and she helps me. But nevertheless, look what happened between me and Bayan, my daughter, about 8 years ago. Every time she says, Daddy, please, can you take us to the mall, to picnic, to journey, whatever, I say, Bayan, Indi Maw'id. Always I say, Bayan, Indi Maw'id. Bayan, Indi Maw'id. I'm sorry, Indi Maw'id. I have an appointment. I have an appointment. At that time, I did not have the mobile with the, the calendar, all the time in a mobile. About 8 years ago, I used to use A4 paper. Always it was divided into 30 books. You see, all the time, every maybe 15 seconds, I just pull this, I have an appointment, yes, I have a with this, okay, hello, whatever. All the time I have an appointment. Then once she came and she gave me like a intellectual slap in my face. She came to me and said, Baba, I said, what? I said, Lo samaht, please write down Maw'id ma' Bayan. She said, please write in your paper an appointment with Bayan. I have the right, I want you to sit with me. As if I was sleeping and someone just woke me up with a good slap in my face. Wallahi, I'm not saying I became excellent after that. Okay? I'm doing my best, but wallahi, really. So sometimes we do not sit. And let me tell you something about a study that was carried out in New Jersey about 15 years ago. It took them, I don't know how many years, 10, 15 years, one of the universities, on thousands of kids to reach out the following results. They say, so that to be able to bring up your kid to be a normal human being, not having any kind of psychological disorder, the kid needs no more than 2 hours out of every 24 hours. But, you know the but? No one can guess when these 2 hours are. Got my point? Which means he needs just 2 hours, yes, but he decides when, not you. Which means you need to be available. Because sometimes the kids say, okay, maybe he's playing, just now he's afraid of something. Mama, just for 10 seconds, just hold, hug, kiss, that's it. 10 seconds, يلا روح كمل على ربك. That's it. But if you are not there, most of the time, or you, I mean by you, he or she, it depends, he will be lost. So really, I'm talking about myself. I'm facing this problem, and I have one of my plans. You may laugh at me. One of my plans, the basic point of coming here to this country, I want to regather and to re-establish my relation with my family. Wallahi. Because I'm not able to sit with them back in Jordan. I want to bring him and to involve them in da'wah with me, the whole family, and to be close to them better. So I admit that really we have a serious problem with this.